My name is Mark Price. I'm from Alchemy Collective, and I wanted to chat with you guys tonight about two of my favorite topics, which is creativity and meditation. So, when we think of creativity, it can either produce a negative or a positive response in people. Some people say, well, I'm really not that creative. But the truth of the matter is that we're being creative all the time. We're creating all the time, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. So we should probably start with, what is the definition of creativity? Most of us think, and this is where some of the resistance might come from with this term creativity, is that most of us think, in order to be creative, I have to figure out how to show something or create something in a brand new, completely original way, right? Something that's never been done before. So I have a different definition of creativity. I define creativity as being able to find the connection between two seemingly unrelated things, meaning two things that seem completely different, how there's actually unity between those two. So a perfect example of this is I spent the first 20 years of my professional life in the entertainment industry working on Broadway. And one of the things, it's a perfect example of how someone's able to cognize creativity based on what the need of the time is this hit show called Hamilton. Perhaps some of you have heard of it. So the interesting thing about this show is that it combines two things, rap music and politics, which is fascinating because if you were probably to pitch that to any producer nowadays, they'd probably look at you like you were crazy. But these two things, rap music and politics, happen to be two of Lin-Manuel Miranda's favorite things. So he just found a way that these two things were actually connected, being able to cognize these two things. So creativity is a very interesting thing. These creative pulses, according to the Vedas, which is the basis of knowledge from which the meditation style that I teach comes from. According to Vedic science, creative impulses are being pulsed out all the time. It's almost like having an iCloud in the sky, and these pulses just are being constantly pulsed out based on what the need of the time is for the day, or of the time. So I find it no accident, going back to this idea of Hamilton, that this juggernaut musical based on politics about our founding fathers was created at a time when there's so much political upheaval. Again, based on what the need of the time is. But the trick about these creative impulses is that anyone can receive them. Anyone can take action with creativity. We're creating all the time. It doesn't matter whether you're a stay-at-home parent trying to figure out what vegetables to get your kids to eat, or the CEO of a company trying to find ways to be innovative and new. So we're constantly using this creativity. But the challenge is, are you open enough to receiving the signals and the cues for what those pulses of creativity are? And this is where meditation falls into the picture here. So, with a hyper-stimulated system, we stop being able to take in accurate information. And we stop being able to pick up those subtle cues of creativity, as well as what the next right action is. And we start just responding to perceived signals of threat, even when there are no perceived signals of danger. So meditation helps restore the nervous system by introducing deep rest. And it also helps reconnect brain functioning. So, interesting thing about meditation. If you hooked up leads to a brain pre-meditation, you see that all four quadrants of the brain, kind of like an orchestra with no conductor. It's kind of like really bad jazz. But once we start meditating, all four quadrants start to rise and fall in unison. The brain starts working cohesively rather than independently. Now this is an interesting thing. This is the same brain functioning that a researcher named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi cognized in the late 60s, early 70s, known as flow state. He was able to figure out, after studying several different high performers, a trend in brain functioning to where the skill set wasn't too high and the talent to meet that demand wasn't too low. The sweet spot in between those two was something that was known as flow state. And so this brings me to the definition of what is innovation. I define innovation as recognizing what the need of the time is today and being able to meet that need with supreme adaptability. So we often think of creativity as a lateral thinking process. A plus B equals C. But oftentimes creativity comes from the most unexpected connections. And so the only way that we can sort of foster that creativity is creating the right brain conditions for that to happen. It's almost like inspiration. Writers know this, high performance people know this. And this is the same reason why high performers have routine and ritual and practice and rehearsals, because they know that this thing called inspiration strikes when you actually show up to do the work, when you actually have the space to do that. So one question I would ask you is that where in your lives are you actually creating the space to do deep work, to do creative daydreaming, to refill that gas tank for creative stimulation? Again, these creative impulses are coming from unexpected connections, and we're picking them up all the time, but the difference is, can you receive them? Can you receive those signals? So one of the things I'd like to do today is a simple exercise called alternate nostril breathing. It's very simple. So seated very comfortably, back supported, head free. You're going to take your thumb, curling in your pointer finger, and these two fingers. Blocking your right nostril, exhale out of the left side. Inhale. Hold. Exhale out of the right nostril. Then inhale. Hold. Exhale out of the left. And continue to do this at your own pace as I continue to talk to you. So what we're doing is we're calming the parasympathetic nervous system. We're reconnecting all four quadrants of the brain. And more importantly, we're introducing a state, rather than fight or flight, which occurs from a hyperstimulated nervous system. We're introducing a state, the relaxation response, which is responsible for something called stay and play. That's going to lead to greater cognition and greater creative intelligence.